Hi folks, my name's Brian, and if you're watching this with your eyeballs, that means you're tuning into Isolation Games Episode 2, the show literally no different from all of these other videos. Last week's episode was way too long, so if you're watching this one, it's pretty safe to say you know what this is all about, so let's just jump right in. Released in 2016, Stardew Valley was developed by one person and published by a couple more people, and has become one of the surprise indie successes from the past 5 years. The game is an RPG farming simulator, similar to Harvest Moon, not too similar to Farming Simulator, and certainly not similar to Elebits. Put simply, you're new in town, starting your own farm with crops to cultivate, fruit to forage, flounders to fish, monsters and mines, and people to pester. The narrative, while simple, is pretty touching and appropriate for the weirdness that we're living in right now. Your character starts out at a dead-end, soulless job working for Joja Corp. I knew that logo looked familiar. You reach a point where you get sick of corporate life and you open a letter from your late grandfather. It's a deed to his farm in Stardew Valley. After a pleasant ride through the mountains, you arrive at a bus stop where you meet Robin, the local carpenter. She takes you to your new farm, where you meet Mayor Lewis. And the farm itself is an absolute disaster, and that kind of gets Robin and Lewis into like a nice little funny spat, but after that, the game's pretty much an open book. Go nuts. Most people will either start cleaning up the joint or head into Pelican Town, the local village where you'll meet most of the other townsfolk. Some areas are off limits for the first couple in-game days, but after about a week in the valley, most of the map is open for you to explore. From there, you have the freedom to pretty much do whatever you want. You get a couple introductory quests that have you meet everyone in town and learn the basics of farming, but a lot of the game is spent working towards goals that you make for yourself. The closest thing to main objectives comes from your relationships in the community center. Once you meet everyone in town, you can give them gifts that'll work towards their friendship. Some villagers can even be romanced and married. I didn't do any of this, but I'm mainly focused on farming, but the option is there. The game's main RPG elements come through its skill progression system that rewards you for just doing the stuff that you'd normally be doing. As your skills improve, you start to unlock recipes for different equipment, and you even start to learn professions that can specialize the way that you like to do things the way that you want to do them. For example, as you level up your farm skill, you can choose between having your animal products be worth a lot more, like your cheese and your milk and your eggs and stuff like that, or you can have your crops be worth more, like your taters and your beets and your beans and stuff like that. As you work through the seasons, you'll start to develop a mastery for the skills that you put the most focus on. I mainly did farming and fishing, so I got all the fancy equipment for that sort of stuff, but my people skills have a lot to be desired, and it really shows anytime I try to interact with the townsfolk. Speaking of seasons, the game treats each of the 4 seasons as a month, so they each have 28 days, and they each have their own set of crops that you can grow, people's birthdays, and specialized events that can happen in the town. As far as I know, the game doesn't have a set end date, so you could play for as many seasons or years as you can. So the game does a good job of making sure that you like to take your time with the stuff that you do, and it does that with its energy bar. With all of your manual labor, like fishing and tilling soil and stuff like that, you'll consume parts of your energy bar, and if you use it up too much or too fast, then you feel exhausted and eventually you'd pass out if you keep working yourself. So it's important, especially early on in the game, that you prioritize what you want to get done throughout the rest of the day. Now, because of the limitations on what you can do during a day, you'll start to develop a daily routine. Here's mine. Wake up, pet all the animals and collect their products, harvest any crops that are ready, plant new seeds and then water them suckers, deposit my daily haul into the shipping box for it to sell, spend whatever energy I have left either mining or fishing, return home by midnight because I'm a bad boy, and go to bed. There are some things that can throw a wrench in your routine, like days when it rains so you don't have to water your crops. Outside of your daily routine, you'll start to accumulate quests and tasks from other people in the town that usually involve just getting something and bringing it to them. Once I caught a hang of all of the different activities that you can do in the game, I started to prioritize the community center. Basically, Mayor Lewis wants you to restore the community center because it's currently in really bad shape, and the way you do that is by donating bundles of items that you accumulate throughout the game. Each room in the center has different bundles and different themed bundles, and they all lead up to certain rewards that can really alter the way that you play. When you go into the community center, you'll also notice these like jellies things that I don't have an explanation for yet. I haven't gotten that far in the game, but That leads me to my next point, which is just how jam-packed the game is with just stuff to discover. The game draws you in with its pretty digestible mechanics, but then it really just like sinks you down into a hole that you will be in for a couple hours as you play, because there's just so much to uncover and discover, and the amount of detail that goes into all of these characters and like mythical, mystical, magical stuff is quite impressive. In fact, when I was looking through the wiki just to do a little research for the game, I was like blown away with just the batshit stuff that you end up finding when you do the more like secret locations like the forest and the desert that I haven't gotten to yet. It's just like mind-blowing how much is in this little $15 game. And if I didn't learn my lesson from the last video, I could really go on with just how much stuff there is to do in this game. You can go into the mines to collect ores and gems that you can sell and donate to the museum. There's books that you can dig up that give you like little tutorials about stuff in the game that you might not figure out by yourself. You can upgrade all of your farm tools. You can automate your farms so that you don't need to water everything manually every day. The fishing minigame is very fun once you get a hang of it. Okay, I'm starting to get lost in the sauce with all the stuff I like about it, so let me just like mention a couple things that aren't really too, amazing about it. You'll spend a lot of time walking to different places through just empty sections that don't have anything. There are like warp totems that you can make that can transport you to like specific places of the map, but the resources that go into making them for like one-time use objects isn't really worth it. And since every character pretty much has their own schedule, sometimes you'll just go to a shop and they're just not at the counter. And if they're not at the counter and you just talk to them like wherever they are, they're not going to offer you the service that you need, so sometimes it's hard to rely on. And while this isn't necessarily a negative of the game, you do need a lot of patience with, playing Stardew Valley. Crops take anywhere from 4 to 12 days to mature. Money is pretty hard to come by from the beginning of the game, but once you figure out how to do it, income starts coming in. So if you're not looking for something that's like grind heavy like this, then this might not be for you. There have been plenty of times where I just want to like play the game a little bit before bed, and then I end up just sinking 4 or 5 hours into the early morning, just grinding away on my farm. But it's such a relaxing distraction with very little judgments and a lot of leeway with how you want to play that I just, have a great time playing it. So would I recommend Stardew Valley? 100% yes. Stardew is a game that's perfect for people looking for a compelling distraction in a pandemic-free oceanside paradise. The game lets you do so much without making you feel like you're missing out on anything, and it's easy to rush through the game, farming and building as much as you can as quickly as you can in the most efficient way, and you're totally allowed to do that. But the game rewards patience and encourages you to take your time, enjoy the farm life, and stay for a while. Stardew Valley is available on every platform under the sun, and for $15, it's an incredible value for just the amount of stuff and content that's packed into this game. Now, I played the game on my Switch, which brings up the money-lending raccoon in the room. The latest Animal Crossing came out a couple weeks ago, and while there are some similarities that can be drawn between these two games, and I plan on drawing those similarities myself when I make a video about this game because I got it a couple days ago and I'm really excited. Stardew Valley is an excellent choice if you're gaming on a budget and looking for a really relaxing piece of escapism to get you through these really weird times. Thank y'all so much for tuning into episode 2 of Isolation Games. I had a ton of fun learning from the first video and not making this living hell to get through. If you liked what you saw, why not give me a like? And if you like me, gosh, I'm flattered, why don't you subscribe to the channel? And if you're feeling extra generous, why not head over to my Patreon? I give little updates on the videos that I'm doing, and I just recently posted a post-mortem for the first episode of Isolation Games, where I basically went over the process that went into making the video. I want to thank all the patrons that have been supporting these videos so far, especially Mr. Eyeballs Vision Man and Mary Quite Contrary. Thank you again, and stay safe, stay healthy, cough in your elbow when you cough, and